So we're finally at the end of the wedding timeline. We've gone through the entire process, and now we have the child's been born, you've got a psychotic kid you're dealing with. So I figured, why not look at the classic psycho child? So we would take a more in-depth look at the bad seed. The novel written by William March was definitely influential right from the start. The novel was published in April of 1954, and shortly afterward the book had been nominated for the National Book Award for fiction in 1955. March did draw from real-life inspiration for his novel. Bessie Danker, the murderess in the novel, was actually based off of two real-life murderers. One of the women, Belle Guinness and Jane Toppan. Belle was more of a black widow. She did murder two husbands, numerous children. She also went through various boyfriends and suitors. All of this was done in order to collect life insurance money. She obviously found an easy way to make money, and she just followed that route. Guinness was reported to have killed 40 or more persons throughout the course of her career. As far as Toppan, she was the daughter of Irish immigrants. The mother did pass away when she was still a young girl, and her father became, I would say, somewhat mentally unbalanced. He eventually did leave his two daughters at an orphanage where they were considered to have been saved or have received better treatment. Obviously not. Toppan did become an indentured servant, but she later created a career for herself once again as a murderess. Toppan did begin killing at an early age. She was known as a serial poisoner and did confess to the murder of 31 persons. Same as the fictional character based off of both of these women, Toppan as well as Guinness had been through various name changes. The play based off of the novel was adapted by Maxwell Anderson, and the play ran roughly about a year. It ran for 334 performances. The play ran from December 1954 up until September 1955. The show starred Nancy Kelly, who played Christine, the distraught mother in the play, and she did win a Tony Award for her portrayal. Patricia McCormick played Rhoda. She starred as the psychotic young daughter. We also have Eileen Heckart, who played Mrs. Daigle. Lastly, we also have Henry Jones, who played Leroy, the groundskeeper. All four actors reprised their roles for the film adaptation. The film itself was released September 1956 and was released by Warner Brothers. The film focuses on a mother who realizes that her daughter isn't quite the little angel she thought she had raised her to be, but rather more somewhat of a psychotic nuisance who goes around killing people. Rhoda, the daughter of Christine, is upset because she didn't win a penmanship medal from her school. She believes she has the best handwriting, and rather than her winning it was awarded to Claude Daigle, who she feels has inferior handwriting. She obviously feels that she's superior to him as far as writing skills are concerned. The day that they have the school picnic, there is an unfortunate accident. Christine does find out by way of radio announcement that a child had been drowned in the lake. We later do realize that Rhoda's fine. She arrives without any scratches. Since the picnic had been canceled, she does arrive requesting a peanut butter sandwich and some milk. Eventually, Mrs. Fern does drop by the home. She does let Christine know that Rhoda had been the last person to see Claude Daigle alive, and she had been pursuing him throughout the morning. She was snatching at his medal, trying to take it back. It isn't long before Rhoda is caught in some lies, and we do realize she was the one responsible for Claude Daigle's death. We also do realize that in the past she was also responsible for a few other murders. It isn't long before Christine discovers the penmanship medal in Rhoda's little hiding place. She does realize that her daughter was responsible, and she does find out how the little boy wound up getting the bruises on his forehead and hands. In all of this, Leroy, the groundskeeper, does take it upon himself to torment or taunt Rhoda, saying that he does know how he died, he knows where the murder weapon is, that he's going to turn it over to the police. The little girl quickly does take care of him, make sure he stays silent, but murders keep stacking up. It's not a gory film. Obviously, there's a lot of cutaway, everything's implied. It's a different time, different film regulations, but it really does hold the tension really well, especially in the scene where Leroy's being dispatched. There's a piano tune that's playing, and the upset reaction of Christine, you can definitely see the fear on her face, the worry. There's a lot of apprehension, so it's a very well done scene. Mrs. Daigle, the mourning mother, does drop by from time to time, just tries to question Rhoda, tries to find out what happened to her son. And in my opinion, she's one of the most tragic figures in the entire film. She's a woman who had children later in life. She cannot have any more, and Claude was her only son. So she's lost her only child. She's self-medicating. She's become an alcoholic, but you can definitely see not only just the upset, the sadness, but you manage to also feel sorry for her. She's just totally transformed. You never see Miss Daigle as a regular functioning mother. You only see her as the transformed, upset person, but I think her character sticks with me the most other than Rhoda. Eventually, Christine also does discover that she was an adopted child. She wasn't exactly the biological daughter of her parents, and she did feel a bit different from them. She didn't feel that they were her parents, but she makes the discovery that she's the daughter of Bessie Danker, who is a notorious murderess. So she later draws the conclusion that Rhoda may just have the same tendencies that her biological mother had. So basically the child was born evil. Christine does resolve to end this by giving Rhoda some sleeping pills. So she does plan a murder-suicide. Things don't quite go as planned, but they do wind up working out in the end. Throughout the film, we also have Leroy, who is sort of taunting Rhoda, telling her that he knows what the murder weapon was, that he's going to turn it over to the police. The Bad Seed did receive 4 Oscar nominations, including Best Actress in a Leading Role for Nancy Kelly. There were also 2 separate nominations for Best Supporting Actress, one for Patricia McCormick as well as Eileen Heckart. There was also a Best Cinematography Black and White nomination for Harold Rawson. Eileen Heckart was also nominated for and did win a Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actress. 1985 also saw a remake for The Bad Seed. This was a television remake. It was a television adaptation, not necessarily the best. It wasn't a very strong story. I didn't think it was that good. As far as the menacing child, she wasn't very convincing. Patricia McCormick played it so well, and she was just very menacing. The facial expressions, the way she would enunciate certain words, it was definitely enough to make a person nervous. So as far as the original Rhoda, she was just a royal. In this version, the psychotic little girl's name has been updated to Rachel. I guess it was just done because the name didn't seem as antiquated, or I don't know, maybe somebody just didn't like the name Rhoda. She really wasn't a very convincing actress. It was pretty weak. One of the differences in this version is, rather than Christine being a military wife and dealing with her daughter alone, she's playing a widow. I would say one of this film's saving graces is the fact that David Carradine played Leroy. He wasn't as menacing or as lecherous as the original Leroy. This one is more of an innocent drunkard, but I would say the fact that David Carradine was in this movie definitely does help somewhat. Also in this version, Christine doesn't really seem like the overwhelmed, distraught mother from the first film. She seems more like somewhat of a reluctant accomplice, which kind of confusing in the fact that she eventually does decide to do what she does. It's an interesting film concept, though. It's definitely one of the first films I've run across that features the nature versus nurture argument. I haven't seen anything else that does use that same argument, so pretty much first and only film I've seen that does do that. In the 1956 version of The Bad Seed, Christine doesn't die from a self-inflicted wound. Obviously in the remake they chose to follow the original book ending, same ending that was used in the play. The reason for this change was due to the Motion Picture Production Code. They provided several different guidelines, one of which was they didn't want to give the impression that crime pays. They didn't want to give the impression that there's sympathy for a criminal, which would be Code 11 of the code, also known as Hays Codes. So in the original, that's definitely the main reason why Rhoda meets a different end. These film codes ran from 1930 to 1963. That is pretty much all I have for you today. I will talk to you guys later.